53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 670, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 679, 680, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 688, 689, 689, 690, 91, 92, 693, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 700, 701, 702, 703, 704, 705, 706, 707, 708, 709, 710, 711, Senator Patrick C. Ndubezi. Can you move for the adoption of the bills and proceed of city?
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Engineer Patrick C. Ndubezi, representing Imo North. Having gone through the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 21st October 2025, and seen it reflects our sitting on that day yesterday, I hereby move that these votes and proceedings be adopted as a working document. I so move. Thank you.
Benzi Agadaga, can you please second the motion?
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion ably moved by distinguished Senator Patrick Ndubezi on the adoption of the votes and proceedings of yesterday. I so second it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of yesterday is hereby adopted. Announcement. I wish to acknowledge the presence of members of Law Students Association of Nigeria, Yobe State University chapter, who are in the gallery to observe our proceeding of today. I wish you fruitful observation of the Senate proceeding. You are most welcome to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You may wish to sit down. I also have the honor and privilege to announce and acknowledge the presence of members of National Association of Political Science Students, Plateau State University, Bukos chapter. You are most welcome to the Senate of the Federal Republic in order for you to observe our proceedings of today. You are most welcome. You may wish to sit down. Senator Akogun Kamoruddin Olalere Oyewumi, PhD, Osun West Senatorial District, Senate Deputy Minority Leader. Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, President of the Senate National Assembly, Abuja, Distinguished Senator Goswill Obonakpabio. Appreciation. On behalf of my family, I wish to register my profound gratitude and appreciation to all distinguished senators and the wives of senators who honored us with their presence and prayers at the glorious wedding ceremony of our children, Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Oyewumi. Your distinguished presence symbolizes unity and the enduring bond of leadership that transcends political lines. Your overwhelming show of love, friendship, and solidarity made the celebration a truly historic and unforgettable occasion for our family. I pray that Almighty Allah will continue to strengthen the bond of love and unity that bind us together, and success shall continue to be ours. Yours faithfully, Senator Akogunlere Oyewumi, PhD, Deputy Minority Leader of the Senate. Once again, congratulations, and may God bless the marriage. The Leader of the Senate. Petition, Senator Professor Anthony Ani.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Professor Anthony Ani. I represent Ebonyi South. I have a petition coming from one of the communities in my own constituency, Okposioku Development Union, one of the most decent and law-abiding communities in this nation. Their petition is on the cruel murder of one of their children, Chukwuebuka Chukwu, at the Federal Government College, Oposi, Ebonyi State. They are seeking that Senate gives justice to the death of this youngster who died under circumstances that are not palatable. They are alleging that federal government college.
Is there any legal action? Is there any legal incumbents?
There is no, sir.
You may wish to lay the petition on the table.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The petition is referred to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition to report back within 2 weeks. Any Deputy Chief Whip, you may present your petition.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Peter Onyekachi Ebonyi North. Mr. President, I have before you a petition from my constituent by name Captain Wanosike Joseph from Ndurukamago in Abakaliki local government area of Ebonyi State. Mr. President, the complainant is alleging that the Nigerian Army forcefully retired him and also denied him promotion on 3 consecutive times. Hence, has approached the Senate for redress.
Is there any legal action in respect of the matter?
No, Your Excellency.
You may wish to lay the petition on the table.
Thank you.
The petition is hereby referred to the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions to report back within 4 weeks. The earlier one submitted also, the committee has 4 weeks to report back to the Senate. The leader of the Senate. Look, you are disturbing the leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in the name of the Senate leader on the Tobacco Control Act 2015 Amendment Bill 2025 HB 47. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Tobacco Control Act 2025 Amendment Bill 2025 HB 47, first reading.
Tobacco Control Act 2025 Amendment Bill, Tobacco Control Act 2015 Amendment Bill 2025 HB 47, first reading taken. The leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of His Excellency, most distinguished Senator Barau Jibril, on the Nigeria First Manufacturing Sector Development and Competitiveness Bill 2025 SB 920. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian First Manufacturing Sector Development and Competitiveness Bill 2025 SB 920, first reading.
Nigeria First Manufacturing Sector Development and Competitiveness Bill 2025 SB 2025 SB 920, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Nwoko Ned Munir on the Institute for Leadership, Entrepreneurial and Corporate Governance Establishment Bill 2025, SB 921. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Institute for Leadership, Entrepreneurial and Corporate Governance Establishment Bill 2025 SB 921, first reading.
Institute for Leadership, Entrepreneurial and Corporate Governance Establishment Bill 2025 SB 921, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Abubakar Abdul Aziz Yari, His Excellency, on the maternal and perinatal surveillance and response agency establishment bill 2025 SB 922. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, maternal and paternal surveillance and response agency establishment bill 2025 SB 922, first reading.
Maternal and perinatal surveillance and response agency establishment bill 2025 SB 922, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Abiru Mukail Adetokunbo on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2025 SB 923. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2025 SB 923, first reading.
Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2025 SB 923, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Professor Annie Anthony Okorie on the National Ethnic and Reconciliation Management Commission Bill 2025 SB 924. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Ethnic and Reconciliation Management Commission Bill 2025 SB 924, first reading.
National Ethnic and Reconciliation Management Commission Establishment Bill 2025 SB 924, first reading taken. The Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and very distinguished colleagues. The first order of the day is the resumption of the adjourned debates on the Electoral Act Repeal and Enactment Bill 2025 SB 903. Distinguished senators will recall that the Senate commenced debate on the bill on Thursday, 16th October 2025, and further debates were deferred until another legislative day. Mr. President, with your permission, I move that the Senate do now resume the debate on the Electoral Act Repeal and Enactment Bill 2025. I so move.
The minority leader, can you second the motion?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, I like to second the motion moved by Senate leader that we proceed deliberation on this bill again as you second.
Those in favor that this August Senate resume debate on the second reading of the bill aforementioned, please say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Now the floor shall be yielded to senators who want to make contribution. But please remember that this is the second reading of the bill, and by our rules, you are not to go into the nitty-gritty of the bill. What you need to debate on, what you need to make contribution on, should be basically the principle, the merits and the demerits of the bill. You should be confined, your contribution should be confined to that area. Merits and demerits of bill. Don't go into the nitty-gritty. It's not time to go into the nitty-gritty. Talk about the need to or the need not to amend the bill. So, who wants to make contribution? Senator Ahmed Abdul Ningi, the floor is yielded to you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, my name is Senator Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Central of Bauchi State. I'm a member of the Electoral Committee of the Senate. Mr. President, democracy has long been defined as being product of the people, by the people, and for the people. This particular postulation has stand the test of time centuries after centuries. Mr. President, you recall from Plato to Socrates to Lenin to Marx to Adam Smith and so on and so forth actually agreed with this postulation. So whatever that will add value to our electoral system, whatever that will open a window for participation of citizens, we must do it to be able to capture the essence of the word democracy. And therefore, one of what this electoral act is assumed to achieve is in bringing to the fore fair, transparent electoral system. Mr. President, over the years, from 1999 up from 2000, we had an amendment of the Electoral Act. In 2003, we had another one. 2006, another one. 2010, another one, and so on and so forth. Every life of an administration, the National Assembly has tinkered with Electoral Act, all with the idea of bringing about power to the people, just like the PDP say, power to the people. So what we are trying to do with this electoral amendment is once again look back and look at the gaps that had not made it possible for our electoral system to match the world standard, i.e., the issue of beavers,
transmission of result electronically and in real times. We are proposing, going forward, some of these amendments in order for us to afford us an opportunity to get a better electoral system than we had in 2023. And we are not blaming anybody. We are saying, as we progress as a country, as we progress as a nation, as a democratic nation, we'll keep on altering the electoral until we are so satisfied that our electoral system is within the world standard. And I therefore ask my colleagues to look at this singular opportunity. Apart from the constitutional amendments that we are set to do, one of the most important assignments for this 10th Assembly is to provide Nigeria with an electoral act that can stand the test of time. And this is an opportunity for all of us, Mr. President.
Thank you very much for your very, very good contribution. Yes. Senator Mohammed Adamalero.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. Mohammed Adamalero is my name. Mr. President, I stand to support this very important amendment. We have gone to Lagos twice on how we can amend the Electoral Act to make our election free, fair, credible, and acceptable, well, without any hitch whatsoever. And the first thing we should do, Mr. President, is to look at all the areas in the Electoral Act of 2022. Wherever we have inconsistencies and irregularities, we should try to remove them. For example, we are in a haste to pass the Electoral Act, and we shot ourselves in the foot by removing senators, members of the House of Representatives, governors, and the deputy governors, state assemblies, elected officials from being members of the delegates. I think it was a very important omission, and we should try as much as possible to bring all elected members into the delegate list. That is number one. Number two, Mr. President, we must ensure that whatever is the true reflection of the people is what will be announced. We are tired of seeing a situation where during elections, some politicians will move with arms and ammunition, harassing, intimidating opponents just to go and rig election. Mr. President, time is now ripe for us to take decisive measures to ensure that we eliminate this very bad practice. We come a long way, Mr. President, almost 25 years practicing democracy, yet our election is not free and fair. We must do our best to ensure that we reform our electoral process. Mr. President, equally important is the employment of technology to make the election credible and acceptable. We started with card reader, and it created wonders. In 2015, riggers found it difficult to rig the election, and the true reflection of what the people want is what was announced. So I urge distinguished colleagues to see whatever we can do to improve on beavers, so that whatever is the result of the election is what will be announced.
You have.
You want me to end on, Mr. President? Okay, I will. So, Mr. President, I'm in support of reforming our electoral process. We should be in the league of Committee of Nations that are democratic. We must deepen and strengthen our democracy. And the only way we can do it is to have free, fair, and credible elections. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chief Emeritus has raised his but I have not recognized you. I'm just saying you raise your hand.
What did you say, Mr. President?
I said after the chief whip, then chief whip emeritus. That's what I said. I said after the chief whip, then chief emeritus will now have his time.
You want me to sit back? I'm standing already.
Okay, let me see the permission of chief whip. Do you allow him as your senior brother?
I'm standing already, and
I'm sitting to my elders.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
After all, you were all members of 1992 sets. That is still there.
You are right, Mr.
Yes,
President.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Ojo Zokalo. I represent Abia North Senatorial District. On the electoral amendment, Mr. President, my colleague, Senator Alero, have just said it all, because we must define the role of security agencies, where they will work and where they will not work. Where Nigerian people are tired after how many years of democracy. We are still going to court when people win or lose election. We should learn from other civilized countries by people no longer going to court. If INEC said that Mr. Senate President that you won, and nobody is going to argue that. So let election be credible. This is an opportunity for you, for me, for everybody here to put the best technology, to put the best anything that we can use to make our elections free and fair. Because Mr. President, you are not listening to me. I need attention. I need you to give me your attention. I've only one asked me to start, and one is coming in.
OUK. You just mentioned my name, that whether I won or not, that's why I came in.
So, Mr. President, whether you are the only one president now seated, there's only one president now seated. You won. So, Mr. President, we should go back to beavers, improve beavers. The technology is very good, but it's wrongly used by our people. People should make to know how many people that will be in the polling unit, people who are supposed to be here, people who are not supposed to be here. I propose that we must strengthen this legislation so that people will be free. Leaving it empty is to the detriment of the nation. Where the nation have grown to our democracy, we must respect INEC. What their result is should be the best result. Mr. President, technology is where everybody is going now. We should move fast to make sure that all these technologies, as we are voting, people are reporting back. People are having back the result, so that electronic voting, so nobody will complain, because APC will not complain, PDP will not complain, Labour Party will not complain, so everybody will be on equal basis. My colleagues, you people should be serious to make sure we come together and be serious about this thing, because not saying tomorrow that a dominant party have done this or that. This is an opportunity for all of us in these chambers. Don't shy away. The opposition mostly, this is the time to put everything we need in this electoral version of things. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity.
The Chief Whip.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished senators, credible and transparent elections is sine qua non to the attainment of a true and durable democracy. Mr. President, for our electoral contestants to be magnanimous in victory and gallant in defeat, the outcome of the elections must be transparent and credible and acceptable to all. And the only way we can achieve that is by having an electoral law that truly speaks to the conduct of transparent and credible elections. Mr. President, one of the major determinants that will lead to a transparent election is the party primaries. The party primaries is the very foundation of the emergence of candidates that are really replica of the wishes and aspirations of the people. And this electoral act also seeks to regulate the conduct of party primaries so that at the end of the day, the party primaries will also be done transparently and in accordance with the wishes and aspirations of the people. Then it also tends to reduce the influence of money in our electoral system by regulating campaign finances, what candidates are allowed to spend in election, and also curb the incidence of vote buying, where people often buy votes during election time. So once these provisions of the Electoral Act are passed, then a credible and transparent election will be attained. Against this backdrop, I urge my colleagues to support the second reading of this bill. Thank you.
Senator Jaribe.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Jarigbe Agom Jarigbe. I represent the good people of Cross River North Senatorial District. I rise to support the repealing and reenactment of the Electoral Act. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this is a turning point in our democracy. If we do not repeal and enact the Electoral Act, we will be faced with the incongruities in the existing Electoral Act. The repealing and reenactment of the Electoral Act will make it possible for us to take out all the ambiguities in the existing Electoral Act. Areas of concerns like electronic transmission of votes, real time, and independent candidature will put checks to all the excesses. On that note, I implore my colleagues to support the repealing and reenactment of the Electoral Act. Thank you very much.
Senator Olarere.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. My name is Kamarudin Olalere Oyewumi. I represent Osunwell Senatorial District of Osun State. Mr. President, I want to lend my voice to the urgency that the amendment of Electoral Act requires. A lot of people have spoken on some areas. I want to emphasize on the need for steep penalties for election offenders. Because apart from few areas that need amendment, even the previous act are not as bad. But what happened is that people conspired to sabotage the rules, and there is no penalty for them. Both the electoral umpires, which is the ANEC, the political actors themselves, and even the security. So the new Electoral Act should have sufficient punishment for election offenders, so that will serve as deterrent to other people in future, and this will ensure a very good electoral result that people will be ready to accept. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Ndubweze.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Engineer Patrick C. Ndubweze, representing the people of Imo North Senatorial District. I rise to lend my voice to the repeal and reenactment of this Electoral Act of Nigeria with so reasons. Oftentimes, our democracy is being judged to be nascent. People compare our democracy with that of US, telling us this one has been 250 years and not the rest of them. They started from the time we can call dark ages. Now that we joined when the world has evolved, we shouldn't compare ourselves to drag so long to improve our democracy. Rather, we should be on the fast lane to meet up, to provide the rules, the laws that will help Nigeria, that our elections will be very seamless. And the results, we can push our electoral system that we can have our results within 6 hours in the day. And as such, from the content of this reenactment, we can see that the items, issues that will help us resolve the election in a very short time. And as such, I'm lending my voice to support this so that we'll have our elections transmitted appropriately. There should be no problem of beavers and no beavers network and all the rest of them. I so submit that we repeal this Electoral Act and reenact with this current amendment we have at our hands. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Is it Senator Alin Dube?
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, from the contributions of those that spoke before me and the outcry there, or the opinion of Nigerians in general, this is one of the most important moves that this Senate is supposed to do. There have been calls severally for the repeal and reenactment of the electoral bill. And the chairman has aptly captured what needs to be done. So far, as I said, Nigerians have spoken, politicians have spoken about the need to look at our Electoral Act, because that lays the foundation to credible election that Nigerians are yearning for. Not only Nigerians, but as we are in participants or active member of the international community, that is what the world is looking up to. So therefore, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand to lend my voice that this very important amendment and the call for reenactment of the electoral bill is very timely, and I think without wasting so much time, because what needs to be done is out there, and all of us know that there is the need to improve on the law that will provide for elections that are transparent, credible, and that will reflect the will of the people. For this, Mr. President, I call on my colleagues and all of us, and in fact Nigerians, to come out to take advantage of this opportunity, because after this, public hearing will be held, and Nigerians will now from today should prepare to come before the committee during the public hearing to make their contributions and their input, so that at the end of it, we will have a document or a law that will guide the election, ensure transparency, accountability, so that the next election will truly reflect the feelings or the choice of the people of Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Oshimole.
Thank you, Mr. President, sir. I like to associate myself with some of the comments made. But I don't know if Mr. President will remember. Mr. President, sir, I'm not sure I'm entitled to call the president as a witness, but just to draw your attention to what I said when we were both governors, that first, the issue we must work hard to eliminate in our electoral process is violence. You can't have an election that seems to be a war, where young men and the not so young carries AK-47, either to chase away opponents or even to chase away the young men and women who are presiding over election, or to take over collation centers. On that occasion, as a city governor, I believe Governor Dixon was also at that meeting. I remember when I finished, I said, AK-47 is not like buying a car. Only big men have the money to procure it, and unfortunately, they seduce young people, weaponize their poverty, give them these weapons to fire at opponents and cause disruption, so that they can write the result in the manner that they want. I remember the former Governor Amici asking me whether I was accusing the governors. I think I said something close to yes. Because if you ask the security agencies, they will tell you that after every election, violent crimes increase. Because the politicians who have procured weapons for children who are hungry and pay them a little fee, once the election is over, they are not able to retrieve the weapons. And the weapons are then deployed by these people for violence. You can see a strong correlation between the level of criminality, robbery, etc., immediately after the election. Because these people have been abandoned since the results have been given. Somebody said I shouldn't accuse governors. I'm not accusing governors now. I'm just recalling what I have said before. And when I listen to all those who have spoken here, everybody spoke in unison. I haven't heard anyone who says he doesn't want a transparent election. If we all do, not from our lips, but from our heart, and we decide to remove violence and convince ourselves that the Nigerian people deserve to hire and fire without fear or favor on election day, at least after every 4 years, we will, even under the current law, we will have free, fair, transparent election. However, that said, I want also not to throw away everything that has been done before. If we compare the last election and even the one before it,
to the election of 2003, where we saw policemen in uniform carry ballot boxes in front pages of newspapers. Between that time, 2003, where Yaradua complained about a process that threw him up that he was ashamed to accept, but he has to accept in order to avoid national crisis. And I believe he was right. Be so rest in peace. I think between that time and now, we have to be fair to INEC. They have introduced measures, including the ones we are talking about now, such as beavers, such as even PVC. PVC was not there in 2023. At every election, I have seen innovation.
Time up.
Excuse me. I wasn't told any time, but I'm going to round up. I'm going to round up. We have only one president here. Let nobody assist him. Just rounding up, since some people have said so, even though they don't have authority, so to say, including my in-laws. I just want to say that the beauty of democracy, is not the fact that you find yourself occupying an important elective office. It is the feeling in your heart that people actually, in their free will, found you worthy to be their voice and to entrust our collective patrimony in your hands to manage, to deliver the greatest good to the greatest number. That for me is the beauty. If you achieve it by the aim of, by through rigging or other manipulation, deep in your heart, you know that you are not a happy person. Therefore, I wish to say the following. First, we should resolve, each and every one of us, and also collectively, that as elected persons, we as senators shall not, directly or indirectly, secretly or openly, aid and abet unemployed or semi-employed people and arm them to disrupt election. If we reform our character, this problem is 90% solved. In Edo State, sir, I launched one man, one vote, one woman, one vote. At the end of the day, and as of today, it is now possible to do election without cutting dead bodies. It wasn't so before, because we convinced everybody that there is no merit in taking election or conducting election as if it is a state of war. That said, the last thing we must look at critically is the issue of technology. And that is the point we made to the INEC chairman. The idea of introducing beavers, I think we must commend the previous INEC leadership in introducing some of these devices. However, the problem is those who are to charge these batteries, charge these electronics.
Oh, sure, Baba.
Sir, you have been very grateful. You have been very generous. I will round up now.
Okay.
They will say, see, I belong to the ruling party. Don't talk like opposition. Chief Whip. No, I wasn't talking to him. I was talking to somebody from that side. Who am I to talk to Chief Whip? Will whip me out. So, in conclusion, sir, I believe we should learn from what we all watch on CNN. When a big politician was begging an electoral officer to please give him, was it 40,000 extra vote? And this was on television. It was relayed, which shows that at the end of the day, if the leadership lead well, this can follow. So I want to suggest that in dealing with technology from what we have seen,
Time up.
we must be careful of hackers and therefore have the alternative. If one fail, we use the other so that the entire system is not collapsed. The last one is the idea of running election one day.
Thank you,
From
distinguished
House of
Senator
Assembly to
Oshomole.
House of Rep and so on. I think that would be dangerous. We should do it because if you put everything one day and it fails, there will be confusion all over the country. I think we should retain the idea of presidential election and National Assembly election one day, governorship election and House of Assembly election another day. These are gains that we have established and we should protect them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you for being brief. Distinguished Senator Dixon. Because of the number of people that want to say something,
thank
maybe
you.
just a minute.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my dear colleagues, Henry Siraki Dixon, Bayelsa West. Mr. President, first of all, I would like to commend the sponsor who led the lead debate and chairman of the Committee on Electoral Matters, of which I'm a member, for bringing this very important matter for our discussion. And having listened to the lead debate and all the very moving and passionate contributions of all members, with which I totally agree, I just felt I should add a thing or two. There is no doubt, as has been said, that if there is one pressing matter before this 10th Senate, if there is one pressing matter before this 10th Senate, it is the issue of how we sustain and deepen and ring-fence the electoral system. Because if that fails, then we will only be a democracy in name. Will only be a democracy in name. And it's a great shame, it's a shame, that election period after election period, we seem to be regressing. I know that in this country, in 2007, President Yar'Adua, right there on the inaugural podium, restated his determination to review the electoral system that brought him into office. After Yar'Adua, 2015, a sitting president who appeared to be losing without even waiting for the final tally to be called, President Jonathan, and by the way, from the great state of Bayelsa too, made that historic call. And I was there in the room with him. The effort was to deepen and elevate Nigeria's democracy. And thereafter, 2019, we didn't see how that improved our system. So in some way, without casting blame or pointing fingers, we appear not to have built on the momentum that has been established, to the extent that, as I said the other day, and I note Mr. President's very patriotic utterance when he said, well, our country has done it before, and you're right. Now, it's as if, I don't want to say smaller countries, but we are the giant of Africa, and we remain so, by history and by design. It is other countries now that are now taking the shine. And I say so painfully, with reference to the last presidential elections in Ghana, where the candidate of the ruling party, Dr. Bawumia, candidate of the NPP, vice president to the sitting president, Akufo-Addo, before even the tally was completed, placed a call to current president John Mahama and considered and stole the show, as it were, from us, Nigeria. So, Mr. President, if there is one major achievement we must make in this 10th Senate under your leadership, we plead that it should be this issue of electoral reform. In India, where you have over 1 billion people voting, diverse nation, which is a continent of its own, they spend 2-3 weeks doing elections because of the size, but you hardly hear people go to court challenging or killing themselves and so on. And they all have the differences too, ethnic, tribe, religion, and all of that. So, Mr. President, we have an opportunity. I know that we have moved from card reader to beavers. We should authorize INEC to deploy more technology, and we should support them with funding. Secondly, our political parties are the biggest challenge to our democracy. We have to look for a way by which we can introduce some regulation and control on their behavior or undemocratic behavior. And thirdly, And this is quite serious. I'm sure when we assemble in Lagos, tomorrow, Mr. President, will be meeting, your committee will be meeting in Lagos to again review some of the proposals that we have been tinkering with for almost a year now. The burden of proof in electoral matters, Mr. President, must shift to INEC. That is where it rightly and properly belongs. We should not subject it to the normal evidential rule that says he who alleges must prove. How can you prove something you don't even know? INEC is the electoral body conducting elections. INEC appoints people, a candidate and party has no control over them. INEC does whatever they do, juggle figures and announce. Do cancellations, they explain to no candidate, they explain to no party. And yet the law says, if you challenge it, he who alleges must prove. No. In every other matter, that may very well be the case. That's the common law. But we must make a change in our reviews in the Electoral Act now, requiring that for electoral matters, which are, as we lawyers say, sui generis, they are a particular class of their own. We must shift that burden. The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC. I want us to look at this carefully, and then when we do the clause by clause and at the committee considerations, we can look at it. Mr. President, thank you very much as we unite to give this country an electoral act that will stand the test of time and deepen our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me commend my brother, distinguished Senator Seriaki Dixon. And also, I'm sure that even myself and Senator Abaribe, who have been around for almost 2.5 decades in these electoral matters, I know you don't care about political party, you win election in any party. so you have a lot of experiences, but you will agree with me that since PDP left, the elections have improved tremendously in this country. Because I recall I've been close to most of the presidents since 1999, and I recalled in 2007 when I won as a governor. Our then president, may so rest in peace, President Yaradua, had to come out publicly to say that the election that brought him as president was totally flawed. I don't know whether you know that. He said it, that it was totally flawed, that the election was full of inconsistencies and rigging. Since then, we have plugged the holes. So now, imagine this last election. We had to go up to Supreme Court, arguing as to whether winning the Federal Capital Territory was the only reason why you should become president. Instead of the FCT being counted as a state for the purpose of calculation the 2/3, people are saying, no, win FCT and then you have won presidency. So you can lose in 36 states of the Federation, but once you win FCT, that automatically you have become president. And they wasted time. They had panels upon panels in different television studios, and at the end of the day, we got to Supreme Court and back. Common sense could have told us that that was not the intent of the Electoral Act. So we can only do our best. Nigerians will still do mischief, and for those of us from Anambra, we know that there are people who travel abroad during election, crafting papers, and immediately after the election, they go to court, and they would submit papers that you can't even fault, and then suddenly you find them inside the Senate, and the real winner is crying outside. I don't want to mention the name, but Senator Alero, you know the best. no need. So we must find a way to plug the loopholes of such occurrences so that we can have a better electoral system. But just to add, so we can go into other businesses, is there anybody who is opposed to this electoral amendment going for second reading? Anybody who is opposed to the Electoral Act amendment going for second reading? Senator Garba, are you opposed to it? Maidoki, are you opposed to it? If you are not opposed to it, let's go for second reading because we still have Lagos to go and ventilate our thoughts. No, but this time around, I bow to you. I defer to you. So please say something.
Thank you very much, the Senate President, for recognizing me. My name is Senator Garba Musa Maidoki, representing Kebbi South Senatorial District. It's a privilege to be able to comment on this very important issue, sir. And I would like to commend Senator Siriake Dixon, first for making it possible that the law should allow INEC to be the one that will prove their election instead of the other way around. The INEC has the voting materials, have the PVC. I saw it on newspaper just last 2 weeks that INEC is requesting 1.5 billion for somebody to get a certified true copy. That is absurd. But largely, sir, I have seen election. I know I'm a first timer, and you know we went through baptism of fire. I have seen election where the guideline has clearly stated this ABC. People were declared winners with less than 100 votes instead of saying the election is inconclusive. And those people were never prosecuted. INEC didn't do any post-mortem to say, look, what you did is wrong, and bring those perpetrators to book. I think INEC need to, after each election, see where the infringement are, who acted on that infringement, and actually prosecute it. And lastly, sir, is diaspora voting, sir. Sir, I understand diaspora remittance is now more than the crude oil income coming into this country. If these people are so patriotic to be bringing in dollars, when some of us politicians will be taking this money out without any job, they have sweated, get the money, brought it back to Nigeria so that it will improve our economy. Why are they not allowed to determine the future of this country? Thank you, sir.
Is that last point? You said people brought in money. No, it's important because you are talking to Nigerians.
Yes, sir.
You said they brought in money so that they can determine the future of Nigeria.
No, they should be allowed to also participate in determining the future of Nigeria. The diaspora people.
So because they bring in money.
Yes, sir.
Into the country.
Yes, sir.
They should be allowed to determine the future of Nigeria.
No, in participation with other Nigeria. Don't get me wrong. So that they can vote. That's what we are saying.
I thought those of us that are in Nigeria should be excluded.
No,
while those
no.
who bring in money should be allowed to determine.
No, we don't want you to be excluded.
Noted,
but those people are very patriotic, Your Excellency.
The Senior Senator Ekong Samson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Ekong Samson. I speak for Akwa Ibom South. I am most interested in this conversation because even our very uncommon president was a witness when I won election from Uyo prison. So this topic has a strong attraction to me. I think it cuts across theaters of conversation. It has to do with our trusteeship, with our social contracts. I've always been of the opinion that ghosts don't rig elections. Ghosts don't appear and rig. It is the players who compromise, who subvert the clear rules that have been set up and outlined. I think the pith and substance of this conversation has to do with our attitude to electoral integrity. I am firmly of the opinion that unless we firm up our electoral integrity, we leave our democracy in peril. We don't lack laws in Nigeria. We have a welter of laws. The major challenge we have is the implementation, is the enforcement of these laws. And that's why the issue of sanction, where there are clear infractions in electoral process, has a strong attraction to me. So as we look at the gaps in electoral law, it is imperative that we address the issue of sanctions, which will also serve as a deterrent. I wrote somewhere, you recall that I do a lot of poetry. And in one of my poems, I lamented that outside we condemn Oyenosi, but inside we still vote. And that in electoral process, there are two types of feel. They feel, or what looks like they feel, as much as possible. In addressing the issue of integrity in electoral process, we must ensure that the feel is actually the feel, and that the results clearly reflect the will of the people. That is the substance of this conversation. That we have to see ourselves, that the players must see themselves as trustees of the mandate of the people, as people who have been given some mandates to play out, and that we must have respect to the will of the people. As I said earlier, it is the operators that create the problem. Whatever gaps that we need to fill up, if our behavior falls short of basic expectations, we continue with this cycle of discourse. But I think that this offers a clear opportunity for us to correct the imbalances, to right wrongs. And I wrote somewhere about the road wrong. Whether something favors us today, we must always look at the larger picture. Where our electoral process is full of gaps, we might well be entrapped by in those gaps tomorrow. So as much as possible, we must make laws that stand the test of time, laws that entrench core values. And to me, there are no better values than those values that have to do with our electoral system, because they go to the foundation of our existence. So I'm clearly persuaded to find merits in this amendment, and I trust that we will look beyond the moment, come out with a law that will outlive us, that will ramp up the confidence of our people. At the end of the day, the world will be very happy that Nigeria, whom the world looks up to, has a very, very solid premise that we can use to drive our democracy. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Danduse.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. I remain Danduse Muntar Mohammed, representing Katsina South. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, this bill is timely, and for austerity reason and for a better success in election in Nigeria, we have to look at the very fundamental issues that are left behind. One, unless, of course, since the amendment is comprehensive reform, a repeal and enactment intended to provide with a stronger, more credible and more inclusive electoral reform. If, as lawmakers, to make this thing work responsibly and efficiently and even to save cost for the country, it is very important to hold election of all elections of various offices at one day. And at the same time, the election of local governments must be brought to the National Electoral Commission so that at least credibility will be restored in the election in the grassroots, because that is where the election is supposed to be formed, so that it will have a meaningful development in Nigeria. And finally, Mr. President and my respected colleagues, the number of political parties in Nigeria are many. So it's supposed to be, in this electoral reform, at least not more than 10. Some of them, they are just in the paper because they are not meaningful to the electoral process of Nigeria. They are only creating confusion. And at the same time, the defection issues which need to be addressed, because you cannot be elected in a platform and then you'll be defected without a strict law that is supposed to be put up, because the mandate and the will of the people is being betrayed. So as a matter of fact, we have to look at it as leaders to ensure that if we want to make this electoral amendment and to restore the confidence of Nigerians and also to restore the dignity of Nigeria in the international fora, we have to make sure that all these issues are looked into clause by clause so that we can move this electoral bill forward and make Nigeria greater for the better and for the yet unborn generation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, distinguished colleagues. Is there anybody who is opposed to this bill going for second reading? In the absence of it, may I ask those in support that this bill be now read the second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Electoral Act number 13/2022 and enact the Electoral Bill 2025 to regulate the conduct of federal, state, and area councils in the Federal Capital Territory elections and for related matters 2025 SB 903, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the Electoral Act number 13 of 2022 and enact the Electoral Act 2025 to regulate the conduct of federal, state, and area councils in the Federal Capital Territory elections and for related matters 2025, second reading taken. This bill is now committed to the Committee on Electoral Matters to report back to the Senate within 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate. So I thank all our colleagues for their contributions. And like I said, we also have another one this weekend, I think in Lagos. In Lagos, yes. You'll be there. So we have another one in Lagos this weekend, and we continue to discuss until we get a near perfect electoral act for the country for the 2027 elections. And I know that God will guide us. I have taken cognizance of most of the submissions of people that INEC sometimes believe strongly that it does not have much responsibilities when it comes to electoral matters because it is assumed that whatever INEC does is perfect. So this time around, the INEC must be held responsible because they are the ones that have the electoral materials and they are the ones that are in charge of logistics and all. So we must give them some responsibilities in court to prove that yes, indeed, their actions were legal and their actions were in tandem with the will of the people. And then I must also commend Nigeria for the improvements in the Electoral Act, that in Africa, we were even the first to submit to presidential electoral victory even before the announcement of the final elections. And if other countries follow suit, then the elections in Africa would have been fantastic. But we have had improvements upon improvements, but we think we are not yet there. It is not yet perfect, and therefore we'll do our best to ensure that we craft the kind of amendments that will help us to almost get to the El Dorado. Distinguished colleagues, please indulge me to make these few announcements. because of the urgency involved. These are presidential correspondences. The distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, Senate President, confirmation of appointment of chairman and members of the Board of Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. In accordance with the provisions of Section 8, Subsection 1 of the Nigerian Communications Commission Act 2003, I am pleased to present for confirmation by the Senate the appointments of the underlisted 9 persons as chairman and members of the Board of Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC. Number 1, Idris Olorunnibe, chairman. This is a new appointment. Dr. Aminu Maida, vice chairman. He has already been confirmed by the Senate. Vice chairman, the first chairman represents the Southwest. That is a new appointment. The vice chairman, Dr. Aminu Maida, represents the Northwest. Already confirmed by the Senate. So, distinguished Senator Lalong. Oh no, sorry. Distinguished Senator Bilbis. I should take note of those who have already been confirmed by the Senate. I don't think they need to appear again. But it's just the completed list as enshrined in the Act. Abraham Oshidami, representing the North Central as commissioner, already confirmed again by the Senate. Rimini Makama, representing North Central again, already confirmed by the Senate. Haja Miriam Bayi, Northeast, representing as commissioner. This is a new appointment. Engineer Ikechukwu Ugwegede, Southeast. This is a new appointment. Senator Lekon Mustafa from Southwest, commissioner. This is a new appointment. Chief Chris Okorie from South. This is a new appointment. Princess Ofori Senara Emiko, commissioner from the South. This is a further new appointment. While it is my hope that the Senate will consider and confirm the nominees in the usual expeditious manner, please accept, distinguished senators and distinguished Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration and personal regards. This is yours sincerely, signed by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is referred to the Committee on Communications, distinguished Senator Bilbis, to revert to the Senate in 1 week. Come. Clerk. Confirmation of distinguished Senator Akpabio, Senate President. Dear Senate President, confirmation of appointment of members of the Board of Universal Service Provision Fund, USPF. In accordance with the provisions of Section 116 of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC Act 2003, I am pleased to present for confirmation by the Senate the appointment of the underlisted 8 persons as chairman and members of the Board of Universal Service Provision Fund, USPF. Dr. Bosun Tijani. I think that sounds like our minister. That sounds like the minister. Dr. Bosun Tijani, chairman, or is also Honorable Minister of Communications. Idris Olorunimpe, that is the vice chairman of the NCC. And then, of course, Abraham Oshidami, already confirmed as NCC Commissioner. Rimini Makama, confirmed as NCC Commissioner. Aliu Edoki Aliu, member representing the Ministry of Communications. Joseph B. Faloyi, member representing the Ministry of Finance. Awa Mohammed, member representing the Ministry of Budget and National Planning. And Uzoma Dozier, also as member. While it is my hope that the Senate will consider and confirm the nominees in its usual expeditious manner, please accept distinguished Senate President and distinguished Senators the assurances of my highest consideration and personal regards. Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Again, this goes to the Senate Committee on Communications to revert to the Senate in 1 week. Leader of the Senate. Sorry, just one more. This is distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, President of the Senate. Distinguished Senate President requests for confirmation of ministerial nominee. In compliance with the provisions of Section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to forward to the Senate the nomination of Dr. Bernard Mohammed Doro, Dr. Bernard Mohammed Doro, for confirmation as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. While I hope that this request will receive the usual expeditious consideration of the Senate, please accept distinguished Senate President, distinguished Senators, the assurances of my highest regards. Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief, Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This ministerial nominee is referred to the Committee of the Whole to hold and revert to the appointer as soon as practicable. Committee of the Whole will handle the ministerial nominee. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, before announcing the next order of the day, let me say again, Mr. President, as we earlier discussed, I'd like to bring to the notice of our distinguished colleagues that members of the Senate Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution as altered will be proceeding to Lagos tomorrow for a major retreat. And it is meant to be a joint retreat of members of this committee in both chambers, as well as the consultants to the committee in both chambers as well. And in view of this, Mr. President, and in view of the large number of members of the committees in this Senate, since the committee is represented by at least one member from each state, and most of the members of the principal officers are also members of this committee, including the deputy president of the Senate, who is the chairman, except the president of the Senate, who automatically, whose membership is automatic in every committee, and to whom the committee would report at the end of the day, presiding over a committee of the whole proceedings. Since all of us are expected to be at this retreat, it is expedient that I make a humble application, by way of motion to the Senate, that we do suspend plenary session for tomorrow, being the 23rd, Thursday, the 23rd day of October, which will mean that we are not going to resume our plenary session until Tuesday, the 28th day of October, 2025. Mr. President, I so move.
Okay, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. In view of the very important observation made by the Senate leader, I hereby stand to support the motion move that will suspend plenary tomorrow and resume next week, Tuesday, 28 October. I so second.
Well, distinguished colleagues, the Senate leader hinted me that almost half of the Senate will be in Lagos tomorrow to commence further proceedings on the alterations to the 1999 Constitution as amended. Now, a motion has been moved to that effect that we suspend our proceedings, our plenary for tomorrow, to enable members travel to Lagos. Those in support of the motion as moved and second, they say aye. Those against say nay. I'll put the question again. Those in support of the motion as moved and second, they say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So, leader, your motion is carried.
Thank you, Mr. President, and very distinguished colleagues. The second order of the day is the second reading of the National Health Act Amendment Bill 2025, SB 886.
Chairman Power, please
Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, the 9th day of July 2025. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Her Excellency, most distinguished Senator Banigo Ipalibo Hari, to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Distinguished Senator Banigo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Dr. Banigo. I represent Rivers West Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to lead the debate on the National Health Act Amendment Bill 2025, SB 886. Your Excellencies, this is a bill that seeks to amend the National Health Act number 8 of 2014 to increase the Basic Health Provision Fund from 1% to 2% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the federal government. Please recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on the 9th day of July 2025. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this bill is firmly rooted in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, Section 14.
Deputy Senate President.
2.
DSP, please approach the chair.
Which provides that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Furthermore, item 17, 3D of the concurrent legislative list, part 2, second schedule, mandates all levels of government to ensure adequate medical and health facilities for all persons. By strengthening the Basic Health Care Provision Fund, this amendment directly advances these constitutional obligations. It is therefore both a legal and moral imperative. Your Excellency, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the Basic Health Care Provision Fund was established under Section 2 of the National Health Act 2024 to provide a guaranteed minimum package of health services for all Nigerians. It represents Nigeria's first statutory mechanism for sustaining health financing. However, with increasing service demand, stagnating donor assistance, and persistently high out-of-pocket expenditure, now over 75% of total health expenditure, according to the National Health Account of 2022. The 1% allocation has proven insufficient to meet national health needs. Recent fiscal threats further underscore this concern. The withdrawal of the US government, support in key health programs, and Nigeria's approaching transition from Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, mean that the country will soon shoulder greater financial responsibility for immunization, maternal health, and disease control. Without an increase in domestic financing, these developments could erode the hard-won gains in child survival, epidemic preparedness, and universal access to basic health care. Therefore, increasing the Basic Health Care Provision Fund from 1% to 2% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund is a strategic and timely intervention. It will also ensure continuity, sustainability, and national ownership of our health priorities. The National Dialogue on Health Financing, convened in September 2025 by the National Health Insurance Authority in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Finance, and the Governors Forum, endorsed this increase as critical to advancing universal health coverage and building health systems resilience. Your Excellency, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, primary health care is the bedrock of any strong health system. It is where our mothers give birth, our children are immunized, and early diseases are detected and treated. Yet, across many communities in our country, primary health centers struggle with poor infrastructure, inadequate staff, and shortages of essential medicines and commodities. By raising the Basic Health Care Provision Fund to 2% of the CRF, we will double available funding to strengthen these frontline facilities, recruit and retain skilled health workers, and guarantee access to essential medicines and services, particularly for women, children, and our rural communities. This increase will also reduce financial hardship for households who currently bear the highest share of health costs and align Nigeria with best practices across other African countries that have adopted higher domestic health investment thresholds. Your Excellency, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this amendment preserves the transparency framework already embedded in the National Health Act. The fund will continue to be administered by the National Health Care Development Agency and the National Health Insurance Authority in collaboration with states and local governments. Annual performance reports and audited accounts shall be submitted to the National Assembly to ensure effective oversight, transparency, and strict adherence to the purpose of the fund. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, increasing the basic healthcare provision fund from 1% to 2% will strengthen primary health systems, will improve access to affordable quality health care, will reduce catastrophic out-of-pocket expenditure for Nigerian households. It will safeguard immunization and essential service delivery in the face of declining donor support. It will enhance epidemic preparedness and community health resilience, and it will promote economic productivity by securing the health of our workforce. In conclusion, Your Excellency, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, health is both a right and a constitutional duty of the state. By supporting this bill, we affirm the government's commitment to the welfare of our citizens as enshrined in our Constitution. This Senate has the opportunity to make a historic and patriotic investment in Nigeria's future, one that will ensure sustainable health care financing, that will protect our peoples from poverty due to illness and move our nation closer to universal health coverage. I therefore urge my distinguished colleagues to support this bill for second reading and respectively move that the National Health Act Amendment Bill 2025 be read a second time and referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. Your Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I so move.
Distinguished Senator Monguno.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Supporting this bill against the background of the fact that the United States of America has drastically reduced their funding, aid funding in the health sector. And there is also donor fatigue amongst other international organizations, international aid agencies that normally support all this HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, and what have you. There is donor fatigue. And the United States, under President Donald Trump, has withdrawn support for all these health-related endeavors. So against this background, there is a need for us to increase our funding from 1% to 2% for the health sector in order to bridge the gap that we are now witnessing as a result of donor fatigue and withdrawal of funding for all these health-related programs from the United States of America, which is one of the major donors for these programs. Thank you.
Senator Ezenwa, the voice of the gods.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ezenwa Onyewuchi, and I represent Imo East Senatorial District of Imo State. Mr. President, let me first of all commend the chairman of the Health Committee for this bill. Very, very important bill, very well presented, articulately presented by the chairman of the committee. Mr. President, I consider the domestic investment in the health sector very important, very, very critical to our development. This will enhance our primary health care system, encourage universal health coverage. Mr. President, health is too serious to be left to Nigerians, especially in the face of poverty. In a lot of the developed and developing world, especially the developed world, I know in Canada, healthcare is essentially a government thing. You hardly find private hospitals. That shows you that this sector, this area is too important to be left to the individuals, especially in poor countries like Nigeria. Mr. President, today we have a situation where citizens and our constituents resort to quacks, resort to prayer houses. Mr. President, I want to also say clearly that I believe in the efficacy of prayers. But in what is happening today, our people are driven out of poverty to these prayer houses in issues that can be handled, especially at the primary health care level. Mr. President, I support this bill, and I also want my colleagues, urge my colleagues to support the second reading of this bill so that Nigerians will have access to health insurance. Mr. President, I believe that for the healthcare system to be effectively enhanced, there must be a resort to health insurance. And our people must also have the benefit of federal government health programs to address health issues. In my constituency, Mr. President, it may interest you to note that I have also introduced the health insurance system in my constituency, and I can testify that it is working wonders. In my state, the health insurance is also working. And what inspired me to do this is, in my routine health interventions, I discovered that something more permanent needs to be done. We go to our various constituencies, we organize medical outreach, we give people medication for high blood pressure and for some of the ailments. At the end of the day, sometimes I sit back to think, what happens to these people by the time we go back? Because you give them medication to last them for about 2 or 3 weeks. What happens after that? Something more permanent needs to be done, Mr. President, and it needs legislative intervention so that we will give them access to health insurance. That is the remedy, Mr. President. So an investment in this sector will enhance the health insurance policy and system in our health sector. Mr. President, this is a very, very good bill, and I believe that as a parliament, we must intervene to make sure that we give our people the universal health coverage, which will increase the health efficiency and efficacy in our country. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished colleagues.
Distinguished Senator Echacha.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, very distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing the very good people of Kogi East. Your Excellency, I rise to wholeheartedly support this bill, ably moved by the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Health. I will call this a call for timely intervention in the health sector. I also believe that the revival of the health sector is one of the core spindles around which the renewed hope agenda revolves. Mr. President, basic health is very key because it addresses issues of, in particular, children and women, such that when those problems are resolved timely, at a future point in time, there won't be any form of medical complications for our children and our women. For the children in particular, when they are growing up. Your Excellency, given the rate of inflation in Nigeria today, the purchasing powers of average Nigerian has dwindled. So many Nigerians, like mentioned earlier, have resorted to local herbs because they can no longer afford basic health facilities. So I believe that this bill is timely, more so as donor agencies are not forthcoming because of what I'll call a fairly strained relationship between Nigeria and some of these countries where we get donors. The donor agencies are no longer forthcoming. I feel that at the end of the day, we need to adequately prepare our children and women from the basic essentials so that they don't grow up having complicated health issues. It is on this note that I support the second reading of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished leader, Senator Ashiru.
I'm Senator Ashiru, representing the good people of Kwara South. I stand to wholeheartedly support the second reading of this important bill. I look through, and my first observation is that the chairman of Health Committee is not asking for more money. What he's asking for, really, is that greater attention should be given to preventive aspect of our health system. And like he rightly couched it, he said, this is where mothers give birth, children are immunized, and diseases are detected at an early time. My feel is that if we take care of preventive aspects of our health system, we spend less money on the curative side. If we take care of the preventive side of our health system, what it means is that our population will be healthier and their productivity or contribution to economic prosperity will be greater. So I stand to support full-heartedly that this bill should quickly be read the second time.
Distinguished Senator Father Honsi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Father Honsi from Osun East. Our old adage is earth is wet. I thank that Mrs. Arida brought this thing on time, though it's becoming late, because most of our health facilities, they have gone from bad to worst. I could remember during Obasanjo's time, he established what they call Health Facility Fund, which he used to fund all the teaching hospitals all over the country. But today, most of our teaching hospitals and medical hospitals, they are all in bad shape. And today, you could always get better attention. Most of our doctors, they have already gone abroad. The best hands. They are the best hands all over the world. When you go to, particularly if you go to National Hospital here, you will see the worst attention because of lack of attention, lack of fund. Then you go to state hospitals, which are supposed to be general hospitals. There's nothing general there. So the poor masses, they are dying in thousands because of lack of medical facilities. The primary health care that is supposed to be for the common men in the rural areas, the maternity centers and so on, they are all almost in bad shape, apart from few states that are still maintaining it. Today, all this one are issues. The problem is always lack of fund. The medicine that we usually buy cheaply, like Panadol, the farmers and so on could not even afford. My own suggestion today is that I support the mover of this motion, that this will even increase it from 1% to even 3 or 4, so that at least all our population should be able to work very well and produce for the country to be in good shape. Therefore, I support his motion, and I plead with all my colleagues that they should support it so that our country can be wealthy and healthy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator Neda.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Neda Emerson is my name, and I represent Edo South Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think this bill is one bill that we all can agree on without much conversations. The saying goes that health is wealth. A healthy nation is a prosperous nation. Unfortunately, we do not have the statistics of our dead ones. And so when someone passes on, he's solidly buried for whatever reason, religious or ethnic traditions. But if we were to be taking statistics and autopsy to be carried out on our citizens that pass on, it would be very easy for us to find out that many of them die of opportunistic diseases, diseases that can be taken care of by a quick medical interventions. There are many amongst us that will not even bother to go to the hospital because they cannot afford it. Even those that get there are just seen by the doctors, but they can't afford the prescription given to them. And these medications are not available in our hospitals. So our hospitals have become a prescription table and nothing more than that. Even cotton wool, if you've had any opportunity to go there, you were to provide the cotton wool, provide whatever it is that they need to attend to the patient that you bring to the hospitals. I support this bill wholeheartedly because if we allow our citizens to wallow in pain and in death needlessly, then we will be going into a situation where our country will be unhealthy. It will affect the manpower. It will affect our social interactions and everything that affects us. Even our children, our schools. We don't even have sick bays in our schools. We don't have nurses there. And this 1% that we're asking that we are working on so far has proven to be so inadequate in addressing all these issues. So I will support it, this bill, and I will urge our friends, our colleagues here to please support this bill so that we can at least begin to scratch at the solutions to the inadequacy of our healthcare programs. Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues.
Distinguished colleagues, is there anybody who is opposed to this bill going for second reading? Is there anybody who is against this bill going for second reading? Then I put the question. Those in support that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the National Health Act number 8, 2014 to increase the basic health care provision fund from 1% to 2% of the consolidated revenue fund and for related matters 2025 SB 903, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to amend the National Health Act number 8, 2014 to increase the basic health care provision fund from 1% to 2% of the consolidated revenue fund and for related matters 2025, second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary to report back to the Senate within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate. No, Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Power on the screening of Malam Abubakar Sadiq Yawa for a second four-year term as Managing Director and CEO of the National Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Abaribe Enyinaya Hako, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Abaribe is absent. Leader of the Senate. The chairman is absent. Can you proceed to call the next item?
Well, Mr. President, in the absence of His Excellency, the distinguished Senator Abaribe, the chairman of the committee, may I then move that we stand down this order.
True.
That's the third and fourth orders of the day slated to be presented by him, to be stood down for another till another legislative day. I so move.
Yeah. Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I second the motion as moved by the Senate Leader. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved that we stand down the two items from the Committee on Power to enable the chairman to be present to answer questions from distinguished colleagues. Those in support that this item be stood down, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues.
The mood of the Senate. Mood of the Senate.
Mr. President, I have been contacted by a good number of our colleagues, committee chairmen, who have very important committee assignments for this afternoon. and it's important that they are present for the committee assignment. Some of the committee meetings required the invitation of some honorable ministers who already have arrived in committee rooms. So to enable our colleagues continue with the legislative activities of the day at the committee level, I will be moving that we stand down the other items that we have on the other paper to the next legislative day, which will be next week, Tuesday, so that we can proceed to the other legislative activities after an adjournment. So my motion is that we stand down all the other items of the other paper till the next legislative day. I so move.
Yes, the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I like to second the motion by the leader that we stand down other items on the other paper to enable members attend to committee works. And we adjourn back on Tuesday, 28 October 2021. As 2 seconds.
Distinguished colleagues, the leader has moved that most of the invitees, the ministers, are already seated in our various committee rooms, awaiting the arrival of distinguished senators. And in view of that, we stand down the other items on the other paper and go ahead to suspend plenary for a day and move the items to Tuesday next week to enable us attend to the committee sittings and to interact with the ministers who are already waiting. Those in support of the motion and move and second, they say aye. Those again say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Leader of the Senate, you may wish to move for us to adjourn.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having concluded today's proceedings on the other paper as modified, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn till Tuesday, the 28th of October, 2025 at 11 a.m. Mr. President, I so move. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that the House do adjourn till Tuesday, 28 October 2028. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion will be moved that this August Assembly stands adjourned to Tuesday, the 23rd day of October 2028. 28th day of October. 28th day of October 2025 at 11 a.m. prompt. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned to 28th day of October 2025 at 11 a.m. prompt.